Every single spring, millions of people walk out into their yards, see this plant, and immediately think one thing: I need to kill that. They grab the spray. They get on their knees and pull it out by the roots. They call the lawn company. They do whatever it takes to get rid of it. And I get it. I used to do the same thing. But here's what nobody told us. That plant, the one we've been poisoning for decades, people used to make coffee out of its roots. They used it to survive wars. They used it when there was nothing else. And long before that, for thousands of years, healers across 3 different continents used it specifically to support one organ that most of us are quietly destroying every single day: the liver. And the plant is still there, right now, probably growing in your yard. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at a dandelion the same way again. Let's go back, way back, because to understand what dandelion root actually is, you have to understand how it got here, and more importantly, who brought it. When European settlers crossed the Atlantic and landed in the Americas, they didn't just bring furniture and tools and livestock. They brought seeds. And one of the seeds they made absolutely sure to carry with them was dandelion. Not by accident, not as a stowaway hiding in a grain sack, intentionally, because dandelion wasn't a weed to them. It was a food source, a medicine, something you'd be foolish to leave behind. The kium. Chinese had been documenting its medicinal use since at least the 7th century. Arab physicians in the 11th century wrote about it. In medieval Europe, it was a staple, eaten, brewed, dried, and traded. It had a job, and it did that job well for a very long time. But here's the part that I find particularly fascinating: the root. While most people today, if they think about dandelion at all, think about the leaves in a salad or the yellow flower, the root is where this plant really holds its power. And people knew that. During the American Civil War, when supply lines were cut and coffee became nearly impossible to get, soldiers and civilians on both sides started roasting dandelion roots. They'd dig them up, wash them, slice them thin, dry them out, and then roast them in a pan over fire until they turned dark and fragrant. Then they'd grind them and brew them just like coffee. It tasted like coffee. It looked like coffee. It gave you that warm, bitter, grounding feeling in your chest. Without the caffeine, without the acidity, without the dependency. They called it root coffee. And it wasn't just a Civil War thing. During World War II, in parts of occupied Europe where real coffee was rationed or completely unavailable, dandelion root came back. People remembered. They always remembered. Until we didn't. Because somewhere in the second half of the 20th century, something shifted. The American lawn became a status symbol. A perfectly green, perfectly uniform, weed-free carpet of grass became the standard. And dandelion, this plant that had fed and healed people across centuries, became the enemy. The herbicide industry was happy to help. We didn't forget this plant because it stopped being useful. We were taught to forget it. If you're the kind of person who digs a little deeper than what the label on a spray bottle says, this channel was made for you. Hit subscribe and leave a like. It helps more people find content like this, and it tells me you want to keep going down this road together. Alright, let's talk about what's actually inside this root. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that dandelion root cures anything. That's not what this is about. And honestly, that kind of claim is exactly what makes people distrust this whole space. What I'm going to do is tell you what researchers have found, what the compounds are, and let you draw your own conclusions, because you're capable of doing that. So let's start with the most important one, inulin. Dandelion root is one of the richest natural sources of inulin on the planet. And inulin is a type of fiber, but not just any fiber. It's a prebiotic fiber, meaning it doesn't get digested by you. It gets digested by the bacteria living in your gut. And here's why that matters for the liver specifically. Your gut and your liver are in constant conversation. There's a direct pathway between them. Researchers call it the gut-liver axis. When your gut microbiome is out of balance, when the wrong bacteria are running the show, it puts a measurable load on your liver. Inulin feeds the good bacteria. It helps restore that balance. And when your gut is healthier, your liver doesn't have to work as hard. That's not folk medicine. That's biochemistry. Then there's taraxacin, a bitter compound found almost exclusively in dandelion. It stimulates the production of bile, and bile is what your liver produces to break down fats and carry waste out of your body. More bile, produced more efficiently, means your liver is processing and eliminating more effectively. There are also flavonoids, antioxidant compounds that protect liver cells from oxidative damage, and beta-sitosterol, which has been studied for its role in reducing inflammation. Now, does all of this mean you should throw out your doctor's advice and start digging up your lawn? No. But it does mean that this plant, this thing we've been poisoning, has a composition that makes complete biochemical sense for liver support. Your grandparents didn't have access to peer-reviewed journals. They just paid attention to what worked. One more thing I want to clarify, because this matters practically. The root and the leaves are not the same thing. The leaves are bitter, high in vitamins A and C, and they work more as a diuretic. They help your kidneys flush excess fluid. Good in their own right. But the root is where the inulin lives, where the taraxacin is most concentrated, where the real liver-supportive action happens. And the root, when you roast it, becomes something that smells and tastes remarkably like coffee. Earthy, slightly bitter, warm, no caffeine, no crash, no acid reflux. You know, the reason I keep coming back to plants like this, plants that are resilient, that come back year after year, that do more than one job, is the same reason I put together something I've been working on for a while now. It's a 121-page guide called 7 Forgotten Perennial Vegetables. The whole idea behind it is simple. Plant once and keep harvesting for years, decades even. Dandelion fits exactly into that philosophy. So do 6 other plants that most gardeners have either never heard of or were told weren't worth growing. If that sounds like the kind of thing you'd want on your shelf, the link is in the description. It's a PDF, instant download, and it's priced for someone who's just starting to build this kind of garden. Alright, let's get into the part most people skip entirely. How to actually grow this root properly, harvest it at the right time, and turn it into something you'll actually drink. But before I do, I'm genuinely curious about something. Do you have dandelions growing in your yard right now? Drop a in the comments if you do. And if you've ever eaten or used dandelion in any way, I want to hear about it. Those comments are always the best ones. Okay, let's get practical. Because here's the thing about dandelion root. You can forage it. You can go find it growing wild and dig it up. And that's fine, in the right context. But if you want roots that are actually worth using, thick, dense, packed with inulin, you want to grow it intentionally. And here's what most people don't realize. Dandelion is a perennial. It comes back every year from the same root system. You don't replant it. You don't start over. You just let it do what it was designed to do. Growing it. Dandelion isn't picky. Tolerates poor soil better than almost anything else you'll grow. It actually prefers to send its taproot deep. And in doing so, it breaks up compacted soil and pulls minerals from layers that your other plants can't reach. It does well in full sun, but it'll manage in partial shade. It handles cold winters. It handles dry summers. It is, in almost every sense, the opposite of a fragile plant. If you want to grow it with intention, for root harvest, there are a few things worth doing differently. First, give it space. The taproot on a mature dandelion can go 12 to 18 inches deep. The more room it has, the more root you'll have to harvest. Second, don't let it flower repeatedly without purpose. Every time it flowers and goes to seed, it's spending energy on reproduction instead of root development. Deadhead the flowers if your goal is root mass. Third, amend your soil once at the beginning. A little compost worked in before planting helps early development. After that, leave it alone. Dandelion builds its own relationship with the soil over time. When to harvest? This is the part most people get wrong. Spring dandelion roots are fine. They're usable. But if you want maximum inulin concentration, the stuff that actually matters for gut and liver health, you want fall roots. Here's why. As the plant prepares for winter, it pulls all of its energy reserves down into the taproot. The inulin content can be 2 to 3 times higher in autumn than in spring. Wait until after the first frost if you can. Dig carefully. Use a long, narrow tool, not a wide shovel. You want to get the whole taproot intact. A broken root that stays in the ground will just regrow next year, which is fine, but you lose yield this season. Making root coffee. Step by step. This is the part I know some of you have been waiting for. It's simpler than you think, and it's genuinely good. Step 1. Clean. Wash the roots thoroughly. Scrub off the soil. You don't need to peel them. Step 2. Slice. Cut them into small pieces, roughly half-inch chunks. Thinner pieces will dry and roast more evenly. Step 3. Dry. Spread them out on a baking sheet. You can air dry them for several days in a warm, ventilated space, or you can use an oven at a very low temperature, around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, for a few hours until they're completely dry and hard. No moisture left at all. This step matters. Moisture left in the root before roasting will ruin the flavor. Step 4. Roast. Raise the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Spread your dried pieces on a baking sheet and roast for 20 to 30 minutes, stirring every 10 minutes until they're deep brown and fragrant. Watch them carefully after the 20-minute mark. They go from perfect to burned faster than you'd expect. Your kitchen will smell like coffee. That's how you know it's working. Step 5. Grind. Let them cool completely. Then grind them in a coffee grinder or blender until you have a coarse, dark powder. Step 6. Brew. Use about 1 tablespoon per 8 ounces of water. You can brew it like pour-over, press it like French press, or just simmer it gently in a small pot for 5 minutes and strain. The result is a dark, earthy, slightly bitter drink with no caffeine and no acid. Some people drink it straight. Some add a little honey or oat milk or a slice of ginger for warmth. I've had it both ways. Plain is my preference, but the ginger version is worth trying at least once. A few things to avoid. Don't harvest roots from lawns that have been treated with herbicides or pesticides, ever. This seems obvious, but it needs to be said. The root absorbs what's in the soil. If that soil has been chemically treated, you don't want what's in that root. Don't rush the drying step. Roasting a root that still has moisture inside will make it taste flat and slightly off. And don't over-roast. Dark brown is what you want. Black means you went too far. The bitterness becomes harsh instead of pleasant, and you lose some of the beneficial compounds in the process. If you're getting value from this, if this is the kind of content you've been looking for and couldn't quite find, subscribe right now and leave a like before you forget. It genuinely makes a difference for a channel like this, and it means the next video finds its way to someone who actually wants to see it. I want to zoom out for a second, because there's something about this whole story, the Dandelion story, that goes beyond one plant and 1 cup of root coffee. Think about what we just covered. A plant that people carried across oceans because it was that important. A plant that fed soldiers when there was nothing else. A plant with compounds that make complete biochemical sense for some of the most common health struggles people face today. And we spent the last 70 years teaching each other to poison it. Meanwhile, the global liver disease rate has been climbing steadily for decades. Processed food, alcohol, environmental toxins, medications, the pirium. Liver is under more pressure than it's ever been in human history. And we're out here buying supplements in plastic bottles manufactured by companies whose primary interest is that you keep buying supplements. I'm not saying dandelion root is the answer to all of that, but I am saying there's something deeply wrong with the system that convinced an entire civilization to destroy one of its most useful plants in order to maintain a perfectly green lawn. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that. The interest in foraging, in perennial gardens, in food security, in growing things that actually serve a purpose. It's not a trend. It's a correction. People are remembering. They're remembering that the most powerful plants in history weren't grown in labs or bottled in facilities. They were growing in the cracks in the sidewalk. They were the things our grandparents bent down to pick. They were the things we were told were weeds. And that's exactly why this channel exists. Not to tell you what to think, but to dig into what we've forgotten and ask whether some of it deserves to come back. If you want to go deeper on any of this, the history, the plants, the practical side of building a garden that actually works with nature instead of against it, I've been putting together written content on the Hidden Soil blog. It's still growing. Honestly, it's a lot like a perennial garden. It takes time to build into something substantial, but there's already content there. worth reading, and more goes up regularly. Link is in the description. Next time you walk outside and see a dandelion, don't reach for the spray, reach for a trowel. Because what's growing in your yard right now might be more valuable than anything you'd find in a supplement aisle. That's what hidden soil is about. Digging past the surface, finding what's real, and growing something that lasts. I'll see you in the next one.